I doing this? If you're asking that, so am I, but maybe you're not asking that. Maybe you're just here for entertainment. Hey guys, it's Shaylin. I'm here today with another writing video. So in today's video, for some reason, I am going to be reacting to the novel that I wrote when I was 13. This is the first novel that I ever completed. We can say that the point of this video, I can do my whole thing where I'm like, the point of this video is to show that everybody learns, everybody improves. You don't have to be good to start, you just have to start. Whatever. I can draw some inspirational shit from this, but let's be real, that's not why you're here to laugh at me. I wrote this 13 years ago, so it's been a while. I haven't looked at it in so long. I've repressed this completely, just fully repressed into the repression box, and now we have to unrepress. The book took about a year to write. It was 90,000 words long. I don't really have any memories of writing it, to be honest. The only thing I really remember is finishing the book. I do remember finishing the book, and I remember the day after I finished the book going to school and like telling all my friends about it. I probably had emailed them. This may have been the most excited I've ever been about anything in my life. I was on cloud nine. It was all I could think about the next day, and I remember telling all my friends about it, and I was like, oh man, I'm in my book. I printed the book and like would truck it around in a 3-ring binder. It was like this big, and like give it to friends to read, and so embarrassing. This book follows an orphan named Ellie who lives in an orphanage in London. I don't know why I made her British. I am not British. I had never been to the UK. I wasn't like into UK culture or anything. For some reason, I just made her British. There's nothing about this character that would read as British. Supposedly a UK citizen. At the beginning of the book, she's like, I don't know how old she is, 14 or 15, I think. She gets adopted by a family, I don't know where, probably in Canada. Doesn't want to leave because her BFF is also in an orphanage. His name is Robbie. Now, one thing to know about Ellie as a character is that she is really good at solving riddles. Has a Canadian family ever adopted a 15-year-old British orphan? Has this ever happened? While flying to wherever they live, the plane crashes in the middle of the ocean. She's with her new adopted brother. His name's Tom. They float around in the ocean for a long time, actually. That's a whole chapter. Eventually they wash up on an island. They spend some time wandering around the island on their own. Eventually they meet some people who live on the island who also, across multiple different plane crashes or shipwrecks. And also, I'd just like to point out the logistical impossibility. No plane flying London to Toronto has ever swooped all the way down to tropical latitudes to then crash in the tropical sea, the South Atlantic Ocean. Ellie and her stepbrother don't like each other. He like goes off in the jungle on his own for a while. Don't know how he survives. She finds something to do with her parents, and then she's like, I think something's been kept from me. I'm going to the other side of the island where you guys say we can't go, but I'm gonna go. And so she goes all the way to the other side of the island, and then she finds a random lady there who's like, I will explain everything to you. And it's like some Truman Show shit. Her whole life has been a social experiment. The lady basically says to her, for some reason, I don't know why, is this part of the experiment? I have no idea. It's basically like, I will give you a choice. Either you can be rescued and go home, back to your bestie, or everyone else can get rescued. And she chooses for everyone else to get rescued, but she stays behind, and then everyone is like, what are you doing? You're gonna die here alone. And she's like, what? And that's the end. I had planned 2 sequels to this book. There was a lot of weird stuff now that I think about it. She finds like journal entries from one of the people who's like running the experiment on her, who is also like 13. None of it makes sense whatsoever. Now, you may be saying, was this just a Lost ripoff? At the age of 13, I did not know how to have original thought, and this is normal. Most people who write books at a young age don't have an original thought, and they just rip something off. I did watch Lost at around this age, but I think it was actually a little later after this book, or while I was writing the book. What this was actually a ripoff of, because this was a direct ripoff of something, but it wasn't Lost, despite the mysterious island similarity. I just like anything set on an island. What it was actually a direct ripoff of was a series of unfortunate events, because the plot is basically the same plot as the last series of unfortunate events book. And I loved a series of unfortunate events as a kid. I used to read it every summer. I would read the whole series. So I love like that and the Mysterious Benedict Society books where like the characters had to solve puzzles and clues. And so that was kind of why she was like really good at solving riddles. But you know how in the last series of Unfortunate Events book, not to spoil it, but like it's been out for a while now. They end up stranded on an island and they're with some people and they're like, oh, don't go to the other side of the island, blah, blah, blah. And it's all weird. And then eventually the Baudelaire orphans who are very clever. Oh, kind of just like my main character. Orphaned in mysterious circumstances with a mysterious secret organization. Just like my main character. They go to the other side of the island and they learn that like their parents had been there. Exact same plot as Silverbird. We're going to now look at some excerpts. First of all, I did some beautiful clip art for the title page. The first thing that I want to note is that it is in Calibri font, single space. I would say unity of form and concept. Oh, she also, the main character has violet eyes. Mary Sue, I invented her. So they're in a plane crash. The second chapter cuts to third-person omniscient POV, and we get her whole life story from another perspective, even though the rest of the book is in first-person present tense. Elizabeth Alice Clark was born on a Sunday in London. It was late November 26th to be exact, and the rain pounded angrily against the windows. There was absolutely nothing unusual or out of the ordinary about her, except for her eyes, which were pale violet in color. So there actually is something unusual about her. For some reason now we've dipped into the point of view of a woman named Olivia who works at the orphanage and is the one to like find her when she gets left there. Classic how orphanages work. There were many mysteries surrounding Elizabeth. Who left her here? Why was she left? Why does she have a Silverbird necklace? Oh yeah, that's what the book was named after. It's the one thing that she has from her parents that they leave her. Is Elizabeth Alice Clark her real name? Why wouldn't it be, I ask? What's her birthday? Why are her eyes violet? Is it normal for people to have violet eyes? Olivia didn't think so. As for who left her here, Olivia assumed it was the couple who would come on the day Elizabeth arrived, insisting that the orphanage take in their daughter. Who else? Why wouldn't it be? But why? Why leave such a wonderful child here? And the Silverbird, where did it come from? Had her parents given it to her as a simple token for her to remember them by? Most likely. Or did the bird have an even more symbolic meaning? One impossible to unravel without searching into the depths of Elizabeth's mysterious past. At first, Olivia had decided to celebrate Elizabeth's birthday on the day she came to the orphanage, February 22nd. That's the day before my birthday. I clearly was like, what's a random significant date? My birthday? No, 2 on the nose. 1 day before. The girl seemed to be a few months old, and it was Olivia's policy that all the children under her care should know as much as possible about themselves. Well, she seems like a lovely woman. It was only a few years later that her birthday was discovered. Most of the children at the orphanage had become horribly ill, and although Elizabeth was healthy, she was sent to the hospital with the rest. Why? We'll just send the healthy one to the hospital even though she's not sick. Upon their arrival, a doctor had noticed Elizabeth's eyes. He told them he remembered her and asked if she had been born in London 4 years ago. Olivia explained that Elizabeth didn't remember. Again, why would she remember? She is an infinite, but the doctor was able to explain the birth of a violet-eyed girl on November 26th. Here's a really long paragraph. Cuts to her POV where she finds out she's being adopted. And there's this very long paragraph where we get to see some of my descriptive prowess. I was reading a book, sensitive soul that she is. I honestly remember nothing about this character. I couldn't tell you a single thing about her personality. She doesn't really have one, I don't think. The day it happened, I was sitting on the top bunk, third on the left, right next to a window. The worn pages were soft between my fingers. My head tilted down towards the elegantly written words of the story. Yeah, more elegantly written than these. My fair blonde hair falling in front of my face. Wow, what a beautiful way of introducing what she looks like. It was the only way to hide behind a semi-transparent curtain of my hair. The whole way the orphanage is described and characterized is that everyone is very, very, very nice there. So why is she so emo? Like, oh, I have to hide behind my own silky blonde hair. Like, I'd had this bunk since I was 7. Before then, I had a bottom bunk, and before that, a crib. I loved this spot. It was one of the 3 that had a window next to it, and on rainy mornings, the rain would pitter-patter on the glass, and in the winter, delicate splodges of snow splat against the window. In summer, sunbeams of gold would shine through, and at night, the moonlight was almost bright enough to read by. But the most beautiful was autumn. A bright array of colors, burgundy, amber, copper, cinnamon, tangerine, and gold. Those are all colors, you're correct. Each one so warm and bright and beautiful. Right now, it was mid-June, but it was also raining. And outside, the sky was stained gray-blue. The bunk was like my own little sanctuary, where I went to leave the constant hubbub of the 70 or so, 70, wow, this is a huge orphanage, or so other girls in my dorm. It was like a symphony, only sometimes painful to my ears. Okay, so I guess she's just really introverted. Across the hall, a similar, more violent phenomenon took place in the boys' dorm, which I'd entered on several occasions. Most were not allowed and mostly consisted of me and some other girls attempting to pull pranks. Or when we were younger, having midnight meetings that we thought were secret, but Olivia could hear us through the heating vents. Absent-mindedly, my fingers reach up, okay, now we're hopping, up to the Silverbird. It's a habit of mine, checking to see it's still there. Olivia poked her head inside and quickly stepped towards me. So this is really emo, so I have to read it. This is where she finds out that she's getting adopted. Actually, I refer to it as the adoption center, not the orphanage, because I guess I had done some research to figure out that that's actually what orphanages are now called in modern times. We get some dialogue, some beautiful, gorgeous dialogue. She finds out she's getting adopted, and then it gets so emo. Ellie, aren't you going to come down? Coos Olivia. Now that I know it's true, not a joke, not a mistake. I'm leaving. And it's not the thought of leaving home, it's the thought of losing Robbie. No one leaves a best friend. Not if you have a choice. Not if you don't. It's actually kind of wholesome. Really? I stammer through tears. Oh, one thing about me when I was younger, I loved an ellipses. Yes, Ellie, I've known about this for quite some time, but it was only confirmed today. They'll be coming to England in 5 months to get you. They're very nice people. I'm sure you'll be happy there. Was it true? Was I really leaving the adoption center and Olivia and most of all Robbie? I didn't know what to think. I'd been here such a long time, and while sometimes I hated it, this place was my home. The fact that someone would adopt me in itself was uncanny. Only babies ever get adopted. Why would anyone want someone like me or any of the other older children? We're too damaged! What are they? Okay, obviously, like, yes, they don't have families. This is characterized as, like, a lovely group home for children where they are treated very well. We're too damaged. Too much sights, clearly I meant sits, on our frail shoulders. We know that we are worthless. No one would want us. Oh, wait, never mind. They're not in London. She actually lives in Oxford. Oh, I definitely said in Oxford because I also loved at that age, the Dark Materials books were some of my favorites, and they're, like, set in Oxford, which is absolutely why I set this in Oxford. Plus, I always wanted to get adopted by a nice young couple who lived right here in Oxford, not a family. A family would mean that I wouldn't be the only child, that it would always come in far second compared to the other children. I will never be loved. I will always be a stranger, maybe a friend, but never a daughter. I've dreamed of leaving the adoption center my whole life, but as the news that I'm leaving sinks in, what tense are we in? I want to cling on to this place. Now that it's happening, I don't want to leave. This is the longest, most run-on sentence I have ever seen in my life. In that moment, I was as wrong as I could ever be. I thought my life would never be any worse. So this is from when the plane hits the water. One thing about me is that I love melodrama, and I love to describe things as intensely as possible, and I was like, plane crash hitting the water is going to be so intense, and I went ham with this. It's a lot. The shock to my system is instantaneous. As soon as I hit the water, it's as if ice has been poured through my veins. Through the immobilizing shock, I'm unable to move or breathe. A cloud of bubbles covers my skin and blocks my vision. The silence of the ocean is calming. That contradicts everything you just said. And as its silence sweeps over me, I seem to lose my fragile connection with reality. I'm frozen. For several seconds, I'm sinking through the turquoise sea, mesmerized by the mosaic of bubbles, not even trying to escape its clutches. An abyss of black extends below me. I reach out to touch the cloud of a million tiny orbs, but I shatter its delicate fibers, which triggers only a slight response buried deep at the back of my thoughts. My mind is revived when my lungs start to burn with a cry for oxygen. Water floods my lungs. Wait, she is drowning all of a sudden? Girl, you've been under the water for like 30 seconds. Attempting to break the barrier between life and death, but I have different intentions. I'm glad you have different intentions to not drown. I kick my feet in a random rhythm and flail my arms wildly. So she doesn't swim. She just flails. As my head breaks the surface, there's a moment of silence as water clears itself from my ears. I breathe deeply and loudly, the pain in my lungs dampening almost instantly, but my chest still hurts because I was badly winded in the impact. I choke up a few mouthfuls of water before I'm fully able to get my bearings. I wipe the water out of my eyes. The salt burns them. I take a few moments to look around. Bubbles. Next to me is a cloud of bubbles. Tom, where is he? I plunge my head back under the water. It's much easier this time. The silence no longer overwhelming. My body no longer rigid with shock. I whip my head from side to side, my eyes darting from side to side, such as Tom's always seem to do when he is alert and probably looking for trouble. She's known this man for like 2 hours. I don't know why she's analyzing him so psychologically. Tom is so wrapped in his bubbly prison. The imagery is whack here. I'm really obsessed with this web of bubbles that I don't think exists. I loop my arms around his and begin to swim. As we near the surface, he begins to kick his feet. Wait, she just reached down, but now she's like way under the water? What's going on? We surface and Tom spits up a large amount of water, then coughs repeatedly. If what he's going through is anything like what I just experienced, yeah, it'd be the same thing. It's almost as if you were in the same plane crash. It's not pleasant, and what's even worse than the pain is the realization that we are alone, lost in the middle of the sea. They spend some time at the beach waiting for rescue. No one shows up, so then they're like, we're gonna go into the jungle. Here's a little description of the jungle. Inside the jungle, it's as if we've entered a completely new world. At the beach, rock and sand extended in a flat expanse, and beyond, the seemingly never-ending sea. In the jungle, there's nowhere to turn. A tangle of vines, rock, and trees meshed like a mess of tangled rope. At the beach, it was tranquil, sometimes eerily silent. The only sounds were the waves, the waterfall, rarely the faint call of a bird and the sound of our own footsteps. Here, the bird screeched with a deafening ring. Twigs snapped loudly under our feet. Tom curses often under his own breath because of the vines that cause him to trip. And the colors! At the beach, it was as if brightness was sucked away, leaving white cliffs, white sand, burningly brilliant white sun, white clouds, and the whiteness of our desperate faces. Okay, so I guess they're both very Caucasian and not sunburned. She'd be very sunburned. Girl, you're on a tropical island with no sunscreen. Here, the colors are deep, rich, and plentiful. The greens vary from deep shades to bright colors, from a deep evergreen to obscure neon with tints of other colors shining through. I see flashes of red on a bird wings, dashes of yellow on wildflowers, and splotches of orange on fruit. Each one is so bright, so unknown. Here the sky is gone, blocked by a canopy of leaves. Only a few lucky rays of light escape their clutches. A few steps into the jungle, the sound of the waterfall is still loud, but as we trudge along, the sound becomes smaller, less significant, and after only a few minutes, it's non-existent. I want to read some dialogue. My young description's bad, but I think my young dialogue 8 million times worse. What are you thinking about? Tom's abruptness startles me. He has quickened his pace as well, now matching mine. I turn towards him and give him a good, what do you care kind of stare. Ellie, I know when you're thinking. I've seen it often enough, on the raft, at the cliffs, and on the plane. And more than that, I know you. They barely know each other. And you don't fantasize or anything pointless like that. You think about important stuff. How would he know that? Tom, they're my thoughts. They're a reason people can't read minds. Fine then. He puts his hands up, mocking a sign of surrender. You really want to know? I sound just a little bit sarcastic. Yeah, I really want to know. He replies, imitating my speech. I pause for a minute before answering, choosing my words carefully. I'm thinking about the island, I say blankly. Yeah, I think that would be a pretty common topic. I think about a lot myself. Well, not the island, really, how to get off. You want to leave. No shit! Tom stops in his footprints, somehow surprised by my words, and I am amazed at how preposterous his own thoughts seem. Well, of course, we're castaways. Are you telling me you want to say, well, yeah, here there's no one to boss me around, no homework to do, I can do whatever the hell I want. Oh my god, this is hilarious. I don't reply to this. There is nothing worth saying. Oh, instead, I just keep walking, thinking, and taking in the island prison. Through my violet eyes, oh my! Well, my fingers find the gold medal of the silver bird, which I really want it to be a symbol, but frankly, it's not a symbol for anything. I say here that the island is in the South Pacific. That is not how planes go. To fly from the UK to North America, you go over the Atlantic Ocean. There's this really ridiculous, incomprehensible plot point. She finds a journal from a girl who seemingly lives on the island. There's this one journal entry. I have to share it to you. It's short and sweet. Dear journal, as you may have noticed, I've stopped capitalizing the word journal. Why? Because it's not a name, and this book isn't real, no matter how real it seems, no matter how much I need it. I did title the chapters. This chapter, chapter 18, is literally just called Nostalgia. It's called Nostalgia just because she's walking through the jungle, and as she's walking, she's just thinking about random flashbacks. Beautifully integrated backstory, dare I say. This is so emo. So basically what happens is the main character, she gets mad because she finds out that, her friend knew that the plane was going to crash. Somehow, I don't know how because I kind of just skimmed through this, she finds out that he was trying to help her, which clearly he was trying to help her. She writes him, a letter in the sand, which obviously he's not going to get. Unless our perception of the world is entirely wrong, then all the oceans are connected. My ocean is connected to Robbie's ocean, which is connected to all the other oceans. Someday, maybe he'll stand at his ocean on a beach on the other side of the world, and my letter will be waiting for him. Not how letters work. Maybe it will take years to find him, but it will get there even if he never finds it. It's not going to get there. You wrote it in the sand. Since there is but stillness in my life, and I have nowhere to be right now, I simply sit on the beach as the sun sets into an inky sky, waiting for those I trust, watching the tide rise, and watching my letter wash away into the sea. Deep. There are a lot more characters in this book than I thought. I don't know who any of these people are. So this chapter here is just called Chaos. I have no idea the context, frankly, but she falls. I am not really clear on what's going on. But there's this really dramatic passage. I have to read this. This is the most dramatic thing I've ever read in my life. She's counting for some reason. I don't know why she's counting. I have no idea what's going on. 1, am I dead? Am I dying? 2, did I fall purposely? Was it a fall of salvation or of death? 3, if I am dead, I die having broken a promise. You're obviously not dead. You were conscious and thinking. 4, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I broke that promise. 5, I open my eyes. There is light, sunlight, just the first few rays of dawn. yet I am masked by the shadows. Slowly, I stand. The chaos continues. I don't know what the chaos is. I would be thrilled to know, frankly. Okay, so this is nearing the end of the book. She's like trying to get to the other side of the island. She's just like walking there on her own, and then there's this like really weird stream of consciousness passage where she's like reasoning with herself about whether or not she can take a break. I try to be disciplined, and after 5 minutes start walking again, but fatigue and hunger, as well as the injuries obtained over the past few days, have melted together into an unpleasant sheet of laziness. I don't think that's lazy. I reason with myself, 2 more minutes. That's far too much. 30 more seconds. That's not enough. 1 minute, 45 seconds. Yes, 45 seconds should do it. So that's how long of a break she gives herself. So this other character, her name's Alexi. She was like born on the island. She knows how to do archery. And so in this case, she somehow manages to make bows and arrows. So there's this beautiful, believable passage where this child makes them functioning bows and arrows. Okay, Alexi never ceases to impress me. She displays yet another skill I never would have thought possible. In less than half an hour minutes. What did I mean there? Clearly I just meant in less than half an hour. She's fashioned 2 bows, one for me and one for Naya, and 5 arrows for each of us. Impossible! How fast can this girl woodwork? This is the part where she finds out that her whole life was an experiment. I don't know what happens. They find her and they bring her to, like, whatever, their headquarters or something, secret headquarters or something. Very dramatic, and oh my god, I don't want to read this. This is so dramatic. This chapter is called Fabric of the Past. This is priceless, frankly. I am lying on a cold floor, my face pressed against the cement. The air is still and frigid. I curl in a ball, my knees pressed against my chin, my arms wrapped around my shins. Every joint, every muscle in my body aches. Every bone feels shattered? Girl, I think you just got tranquilized. You're fine. My head pounds, my lungs burn. There's an endless pit of hunger in my stomach. My spine feels as if it's been stabbed into quarters and welds. How did this happen? I don't think the gentle pulse of bruises scatter my skin. The stitches and burns from days ago sting and burn with intensity stronger than when they were created. It's so cold here, I want to shiver, but the slightest motion sends pain jolting across me. This is so... Oh, I say this is so dramatic and I haven't even got to the next sentence. Are you ready for this? I want to scream, cry, and rip my own hair out. The pain so much. What is this from? Like, I don't understand why she's so beat up. But I can't find enough strength to scream. I don't even remember how to scream. The void of unconsciousness was preferable to this. I want to go back there. I long for the endless infinity, the never-ending darkness. Wow, there's like 4 chapters after she finds out her whole life was a Truman Show. Let's read the ending, okay? So everyone is leaving, she's stuck there alone. And this is what she's thinking as she's stuck on an island for the rest of her life. I watched the ships sail away, the chest set in one hand, the silver bird in its place. The ships carved elegant shapes in front of the setting sun and rising moon. Just as the ships are disappearing over the horizon, I noticed something caught in the waves. It's lodged in the sticky stand on the edge of the water, held there by a piece of coral. The waves try to pull it into the sea, but the object has a firm hold on the island. When I pick it up, I realize it's Naya's snow globe. I wipe the sand off the glass and give the globe a small shake. Snow tumbles down on a winter paradise. The wisest person I know, who I actually don't know which character this is referring to, probably Naya. They, frankly, should have kissed. That would have redeemed the book if they had kissed just one time. In like 5 years, Ellie's gonna look back on this friendship and be like, wow, the homoerotic subtext. As this person I know once told me that the island was like a pond. I've come to realize that it's not just the island she was talking about, it's life. I've also realized that life as well as this island is like a game of chess. There are kings, the queens, the chess players, the brave ones, Robbie and Kate, perhaps Naya even. Wow, she doesn't even really include Naya in that, even though I'm pretty sure Naya saved like 8 people's lives. Are the knights of the game. They are the fighters. The island is the board with all its little squares all lined up, perfectly imperfect. That's the most 13-year-old phrasing to use. Perfectly imperfect. And those who think they own every single square, the ones who thought they are winning this game, they are being tricked. Then there are the pawns. I am a pawn. If I ever strive to be anything more, then my path will be torn down and I will tossed me into another battle I can't possibly win because they are at the controls of both my friends and foes. I've learned that we can find hope, we can reach the end of the game and find things we thought we've always lost, like the snow globe in my palm or the silver bird, which is always capitalized throughout the book, don't know why, around my neck. I'm still looking for that hope. We can lose the game, but the end of the game isn't the end of us. To pass time, since I have what seems like endless amounts, I sit and watch the sky fade to black and the moon rise among the sprinkled stars. I watch the ships disappear into what might as well be another dimension, wondering if I'd made the right choice. So that was the book that I wrote when I was 13. Pull this around into a little inspirational moment. As I do. I actually have no, ill will towards this book. I wrote it when I was 13. It sucks. There's nothing good in there. The character is not a person, simultaneously doesn't have a personality, but is also very much what we would call, a Mary Sue with her violet eyes and super intelligence and tragic past, I thought I was writing a very well-rounded, complex character. And the dialogue is hilarious. It's so melodramatic. As terrible as this book is, I'm actually impressed with myself. Like, I wrote that book at 13. It's long. It's 90,000 words long. Scrolling through it, it's actually way more complicated than I thought. Like, there are so many weird plot lines, way more than there need to be, and most of them don't amount to anything. But still, because I finished that book, it showed me that I can finish a book, which was huge to prove to myself that I'm capable of finishing a book. I don't know why this book was different, because, like, nothing in it really is a functioning story. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, one could say. And this was really my first step. So we'll see, do more of these videos. I have so many more books that I wrote when I was young. It's just endless mine of entertainment. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.